People really be like, "Did I miss it? Am I late?"
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll get a notice every now and then. Someone's like, "Did I miss it? Am I late?" Like,
Yeah.
we haven't gone live yet, so you haven't missed it. Or one time I had a technical issue and
Hmm.
I had to sign off and then go back on, but it ended up working out. So it did what it was supposed to do.
All right. All right.
So Abor Aboshishe. I don't have the intro music. I'm not DJing today.
Okay.
As a lawyer suggested that I might do. But I am Ifakolade Umilade Fatosin. I am um, Ia, the creator here of Sacred Waters Healing Temple, the storyteller, the author, artist, and host. And this is the home of divine mysticism and ancestral medicine, assisting us into a cosmic rebirth for the ascension of our true selves. And I have the awesome Aloye Ifa Kiride, who is an esteemed elder, scholar, and author of the Handbook of Yoruba Religious Concepts. His work has shaped generations of practitioners, researchers, and seekers who desire an authentic and grounded understanding of Isheshe and Yoruba spiritual worldview. And today we are going to be exploring various different Oloduishes and Patakis,
Hmm.
right?
That's
Go.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. And he's going to be also speaking from Ogbon as well about some of the things that you guys may have explored or discovered upon yourself. Those who have the book by now, and those who haven't had the book, I encourage you to get the book of Akban, as well as Akban Inu, which is part two that was recently released and is now available on Amazon, that discusses Tawede, and we're going to talk about Tawede as well. So, how you doing today, Baba Ifakiride?
Yeah. Da da. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. All right. As always, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. As I shared with you, being on these social media platforms at this age and stage of my long-lived life
Mm-hmm.
is a blessing. It's a handprint on the wall of a cave, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You see these ancient cave, you know, uh, pictures and all, and you see the handprints.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those are powerful statements because it's not like people were just putting them there for no reason. That was their way of leaving their mark on the generations to come. You know, where those rocks were like social media. You understand? And
Mm-hmm.
so people would leave their hand marks on them. And they would even have, like when you see a multitude of hands, like say when the child is born, they would make a hand mark. And then
Mm-hmm.
when the child reaches the next stage of life, they make another hand mark. And when the child becomes a adolescent, another one. When the child becomes an adult, and so
Mm-hmm.
constantly visiting their Facebook page, and they're seeing the growth of not only the child, but of the elders, of the parents, of the tribal nation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm making that kind of correlation, to say that every time we meet, it's a handprint because people will keep
Ah,
coming
yeah.
back to programs. People who even after I become an ancestor on yet another realm will say, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know, yeah, if I call a day, you know, uh, working on a program with the Oluo, and they're here, and they're going to be remembered. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that's how much all of this means to me.
Ashe. I love that.
Mm.
I know that today you were speaking about the different stories and how the stories are oftentimes interpreted, but also interchangeably. You know, how they can be used, how of course they were written back in those times, but also interchangeably and used in this time. And over the last 5 decades, hundreds of decades, And I
Yeah.
just want, I really am looking forward to how you plan on breaking that down so that those who visit, those who are here for the mic drops and gems today, are able to recognize how it is relevant in our day today
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
live now. Hmm.
It's a whole another journey, as we used to say. It's deep, beyond deepness. All
Hmm.
right, like you're in the ocean, right? And go down and you think that it's deep because it covers your whole body, and then you realize that it's even deeper the deeper you sink, and
Yeah.
then beyond that depth, as scientists are constantly proving that there's even more deepness, you know? So it doesn't stop. And when we kind of connect that kind of deepness, you know, to our capacity to learn and interpret, it's ongoing. It's like the further you can go out in the cosmos, yes. Okay. But on the earthly plane, as deep as you can go in the oceans. And that's just how deep our study of Ifani Sheshe is. And stories are clearly a part of that. You can't dismiss the the telling of stories, or the transmission of stories from one generation to the next. Okay, so yes, it's past time that we put a great emphasis on the importance of stories, the power of stories, and how they shape not only individuals but communities, nations, empires, and in their own way, in their own unique way, at separate humanity. Okay, but we'll dwell more into that, you know, um, after we talk about Tawedi a little bit, that we're going to pull from Ògbon. Now that we've given people a little teaser about what's to come up, like when you are watching the TV program, they're throwing up about another movie so that you can get interested in checking that out after you finish this program. All right.
Hmm. Yes, for
So
sure.
you were going to talk a little bit about Tawedi with us, right?
Yeah, so initially when you and I connected, it was just been about 2 months now. We're gonna move on 2 months, but you introduced Tawede to me. That was the first time hearing about it in December, and typically in December people are celebrating or two holidays, and that is Christmas or Kwanzaa. And so Tawede, from my understanding of what you've shared with me, is understanding the celebrations that reflect us, that honor us, that we can resonate with, that allows us to just be in the moment without external the Christmas shopping, the going out of the way, traveling miles and miles to go here and there, or the grievances that people have that maybe they don't have family to go visit, or may not have the means to go grocery shopping, or don't care to go Christmas shopping for gifts and things like that. I mean, not this is my interpretation for what you shared to me of
Yeah.
what Tawede means, but it's simply just like being in the now, in the moment, and just honoring what is coming, allowing any data, any information, any visitors, emotionally, physically, whomever, to come and go as they are, but just being still and being present. And so you also shared that during Tawede, we observe the 16 major odus.
Yes.
And so for me, Tawede is observing the 16 major odus just as I would observe the visitors that I have coming in. And so I'm observing the 16 major odus, and each time I'm observing it, I'm learning something new. You also stated that that's usually something that is done during December, during that holiday, but that it could also be done during any time of the year, any 16 calendar days, that you have, just a reoccurring 16 days. And how observing these 16 odus, you're pretty much reflecting on life all around you,
Yes.
and how things are coming all around. So I started for January, mid January, and I'm on the ninth Odu Ogundemeji today. And I'm, like I said, it seems to me that although each Olodu, each Odu has its own um, meaning, right? Because there are over 1,000 verses to each one of the Odus. I
Yes.
learned that even whenever I went and got initiated. And that is the reason why there's so many. There could be like 5 people coming in just to recite a verse of one Odu for a person that's going through initiation, because there's thousands of verses that come with it. But I'm learning that every time that I have visited one of the Odus and just studied them, that I'm getting an interpretation that's relevant to me today. And I'm like, what? This is very weird. This is very weird. It's like being in the Matrix or Truman Show or something that is so relevant to even modern times. So I'm able to, read it,
Yes.
break it down, and then also find ways that it is intertwined with today,
Yes.
my lifetime. Because I tell you, the last four Odus that I have pulled each day have been spot on with my
Yes.
life. hmm Whether it has something to do with honoring the process, respecting elders, understanding the environments that we're in, and the nutrients of plants or whatnot, and how it all works together, even just biology, human development, or even about egos and having boundaries, knowing who you are and where you're going. And so I'm learning that. I'm learning a lot of new things, and it's so relevant
Right.
to me today. So I like it. Versus, like you said, people could be celebrating the holidays and stuff, and these holidays have never really reflected us. They're more so rooted in consumerism, capitalism, whereas we really should just be honoring ourselves, not the coming of a Lord and Savior, Jesus, that
Shit.
has yet to come to this day. Um, Not honoring some other man's philosophy that don't reflect what my values.
Yes.
So why would I be passing that down to my children?
Yes.
It might have been strong and whatnot for others in their community,
Hmm.
but it doesn't reflect what I'm doing today. So Tawade has been valuable to me in that sense. Um, and even also it's funny to me because over the years, just gaining knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, I've always said to my kids, being a mom that homeschool kids, is we create our own holidays. We can create our own holidays. We can celebrate our own sacred days that we want to create. And so Tawede to me is just like that. You have come up with this philosophy based off of what you learned through your path of walking and your path of studying,
Hmm.
and you formed a holiday of significance that relates to those within Ifa Sheshe.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I got for Tawede.
And everyone who's listening, yes, please continue to listen, you know, and listen, because each of us will have our interpretation. Each one of us will lend our uniqueness to Tawede. But just like the importance and the power of a story, your personal story is your personal empowerment. And when we sit together in the spirit of Ashwada, and we listen to each other's stories. We don't dictate and make our story the only story. It's like how wise is that? Well, the answer is not very. We can listen to each other's stories from now until the end of time, and we can learn from each other, and we can grow together. You Ifai Sheshe, Tawede, born out of my epiphanies and revelations and resurrections, you know, is is a reflection of our being uniquely one. If that makes any sense. But on the great, like every link in a chain is different, but every link is important in and of itself. I can use that analogy. Okay, so uh, concisely, Ianifa Ifa Kolade. Uh, it's wonderful to hear that Tawede is bringing about this growth and development and this uh, greater understanding bit by bit, you know, of Ifa and Isheshe, which is, I dare say, different than, and at least within the pragmatic approach to Ifa philosophy, more practical, more insightful than trying to memorize 1,680 verses in 256 odus, or just focusing in on what your odu is. Well, when I got initiated, my odu was this, and that's all I'm going to lock in on. And you're missing out on so much when you do that. Ifai Sheshe is inviting you to memory, is inviting you to memory, and not just memory, memorizing of the Odu, but memory of our ancestors beyond the shackles and chains of enslavement. We go back two, 300,000 years. And this whole notion of we were primitives and we didn't have any concept of being human, and we didn't have any understanding of growth and who we were, and that's some European downplay. We can and we must go beyond the shackles of enslavement. The Odui Fa is inviting us to memory. Who are we? Oh, well, we're the descendants of slaves. We hear too often, all too often. And I'm like, please go sit down at wherever you need to sit down. We are the descendants of a people who built anything from a family all the way up to empires. We are the descendants of thousands and thousands of years of growth and development. We are the descendants of greatness. We are just not the descendants of slaves, nor slave mentality disguised as European mindsets and academia. Okay. So again, in closing of this part, to bring Tawede to the fore, and to invite people to get to know the Odu, you know, Commune with them, meditate with them. They will speak to you. They will speak to you because they are part of the ancestral memory. And it's one thing to learn the Odu, but it's another thing to learn yourself. And that is the core directive of Tawede because it's the core directive of Ifa. Ashe.
Ashe.
So are you willing to talk a little bit about Ogunda today?
Mm.
Mm.
Skipped over to Agunda, hey? Well, today being the ninth day of Tawere and Ogunda being the Odu that I was able to explore. Ogunda. The Orisha that comes heavily with Ogunda is Ogun. Oya and Abatala too, but definitely Ogun. And it spoke about the need to carve out unnecessary things and how harsh it is to get to that point. How harsh it may be to really get through a lot of things in order to carve out what is necessary versus what isn't necessary
Mm.
in so many ways. And so, if I could sum it all up without being so lengthy, Ogunda basically talks about conflict and the need of conflict, and how conflict also allows things to be um, uprooted, visible, um, and brought to the forefront. Things that are harsh and uncomfortable to discuss, so that we can address it and basically approach it the right way. Approach it in a way that is necessary for all people to bring balance.
Yes, ma'am.
And how it reflects to me today is I think about the my love language. Let me just say this: like my love language is being a giver, right?
Mm.
Being a giver and also being someone that's like I want to be, um, I want to be a part of those that help to keep things upheld and maintained,
All
right?
right.
However, if there is a lack of communication, a lack of um, availability, it might be an individual. I might have a leader. Let's just say I have a leader or someone mentoring me, someone who is supposed to be like in that position, and they
Mm.
are not communicating well, they are not helping participate well, and
Mm.
then I'm left to take up all of the work. There's an imbalance there. And
Mm.
so without acknowledging what are my needs and what are the what do we need to get the work done, what do we need to uphold everything, what do we need to keep the operation, this the whole assembly together, um, I have to be able to voice myself. And if I can't voice myself to the one who is supposed to be head of, the head
Mhm.
person in charge, then there's an imbalance there. That means that I am left to take upon the task, and I'm not being honored, you know. So Gundumeji talks about being able to bring forth those uncomfortable conversations in order to
Mhm.
bring a balance,
Oh,
or if it's just balance within myself, you know.
yeah. Well, that's a powerful, interpretation, because when uh, most people, initiates, as on any level, hear see Ogun, it's always or too often the theatrical presentation, if you will. You know what I mean? With the pom poms on and with the machete, and Ogun is, the Orisha of war
Mhm.
and iron, and make sure you go to the train tracks and make sure you have this and you have that, you know,
Mhm.
and all of the stories that uh, and involve or include Ogun are all too often it's the stories of some Ogun losing it and being destructive. Okay, but that's a part of Ogun. That's not the totality of Ogun.
Right.
The greater part of Ogun is primarily what you just shared with us,
Mm-hmm.
because there are verses within Ogunda that state things like, well, if something seems out of reach for you,
Mm-hmm.
then pull it in with a hook. You know, use something to get what you need into you.
Yeah.
And when something appears to be not going well, like you say, out of balance,
Mm-hmm.
then you call on that Ogun essence to strengthen you so that you can soldier a warrior, you know, hunter, you can be the strength within yourself to get done what you need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just no way on this planet or with its multiple dimensions that we can sit back, and say that I should not have any self-determination. I should not be the one to lead my life, regardless of what else is going on and what else is happening. I have to be in control. I have to be that warrior. I have to be strategic. I have to be strong. I have to know my enemy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to check my state of balance, which brings me to Bond. And a short adage that I shared with you when we were first discussing the Odu back several months ago. And it was, do not let canoe capsize paddle, do not let canoe capsize. And you're like, but
Right.
what does that mean?
Yeah. Still to this day.
Yeah, but it goes back to balance again. Because if we're seen as the paddle, and the canoe is what we're in, what we're utilizing in life to get from one point to another, to
Mm-hmm.
transport ourselves from one level to the next. We can't be out of balance. We can't let the canoe capsize, because if it capsizes, that means it's turned over, and that means that we're not going to be successful. We're not going to do what we set out to do, because the boat is sinking. You understand what I'm saying? And then why is it? Well, it's because, you know, we're not being technical enough. And we have to remember also that Ogun is the Orisha of technology as well as creativity, not just this wild, out of control Orisha.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
But this is us looking at the Odu through ancestral eyes. Ogun Da, as I had written in Ògbon, Ogunda is composed of two words, Ogun and Da. Okay, Ogun is the epitome of hunters, metal workers, artists, writers, technicians. This is the Ogun that we know. This is the Ogun that very few people see, because everybody wants to kind of be theatrical, and I
Mm-hmm.
get it, but you're only playing a small part of this Orisha, and you're leaving out the greatness of Ogun. An Ogun like effort is necessary to overcome the obstacles in life. The Ogun like effort is necessary to get that book done, to get these programs up and running. You understand? So this is Ogun, and everyone must do their part. Everyone must take leadership to complete the task. And then Da is the essence of nature. Okay. Da is to bring things into being. So Ogun, through the essence of nature, Ogun helps to bring all things into being. You understand that the Ogun, it's necessary. It was Ogun who had made the chain for all the Orisha to come down to earth. Okay. Ogun, if you look at DNA, you see a DNA chain. Ogun, iron in the blood. The, no iron, no oxygen, anemic. No oxygen, death. You know, so that there's so much more to Ogun and now Ogun Da than what we are basically exposed to, and that's why it's necessary for us, we as the inheritors of our ancestral site, to bring a pragmatic approach to Ifa beyond the syncretisms that works for them people, nothing to do with it. Okay, but we have something that's going to work for us, that is working for us. We have multiple books out. We have, YouTube programs. Like I say, we might not be the most popular, but we are daggone sure the most dynamic. You know? And people are going to get it over time. They're going to see that this is not a plaything. This is not toys, little toys on your SU and candy on your SU. No, no. It's palm oil and prayer and understanding the importance of SU. Okay. But we'll get more into that as we talk about, insights, more insights on the Orisha. But anyway, we give thanks to Tawede. We're uprooted, we're cleansed, we're delivered. And again, Tawede can be done any 16 days where you as an individual feel as though it's best, but it has to be 16 consecutive days. When you let me know, I'll say I'm gonna do it with you. I'm gonna be there over up on in the mountain somewhere. But you're gonna know that spirit of Tawede is getting stronger because we're doing it as a community. I say,
Actually, I like that you mentioned about it's not being, just like it's not just like a game. It's not like a playground. It's not just toys and candy on. And I like I like to, even whenever I first met you, one of the things that I remember talking about is how can we find the Orishas in nature? Because I live out here in the South, sometimes out in California, and I like to think of how am I able to see the Orishas right here in my present day
mhm,
path, as I'm moving through life. Or even just like being here in a room, like my hands, the way my hands move, or like breathing, like skin, just like how do we see their riches in that aspect versus thinking, oh, I need to go out there and feed this shrine out there,
mhm,
um, or I need to go make a bow to the shrine. Even in going out to see it in nature, whenever someone's planting, and just being like, oh, this is issue, this is how. This water has to go here. You have to till the soil. You have to, you get what I'm saying? Like the whole process of planting and gardening alone, like we have chickens out in the backyard. How do we see the Orishas just alone in that? When it was storming the other day, the storming got so bad that the chickens got scared and they ran out of their coop and came to the back patio and like threw themselves into the window. That's how I know like they're scared.
mhm,
They're they're afraid. Instead of looking at it like, oh, these dumbass chickens or something, like
mhm.
these chickens are disturbing me. Instead of seeing it that way,
Right.
how do you see what's happening in the sense of orishas
Yes.
and events that happen like that. I'm still to this day trying to figure that out, you
Well,
know.
and then that's the pragmatism. Okay, and I like what you mentioned about the farming, because the farmers need Ogun. Okay, even the shovels and the rakes and the hoes, and the tractors, whatever, you know, it is. It's an Ogun thing. And when we begin to see the Orisha working in the cultivation and the civilization of humanity, then from my little humble seat in the corner of some distant galaxy is more effective, okay, than uh, what's your old do and how many stones in your pot and who made you, and it, oh, it wasn't done right, so now you got to do it again with me. Okay. And
Mhm.
I'll just you know charge you.
Mhm.
But for those people who are there, you know more power to you. We're not here to wrestle with what's best for you. We're
Mhm.
simply what's best for us, and inviting you to memory, inviting you to see beyond the invasion of Ifa and Isheshe, the invasion of Eurocentric divinities and God concepts, and even colorisms, and everything that comes with them as a
Mhm.
result of our enslavement. It's time to free ourselves spiritually, and not just talk about it or pretend we're doing it or play games with it. Like, oh, it's some supernatural, and oh, I'm so fascinated, and oh, it's no, this is a philosophical, spiritual system developed by elders for the continuation of a given culture. Okay. And I get so tired of seeing throughout the diaspora, it's all about the gin. Why? Why is it about gin when gin is made in England? Why is it about gin and it's an intoxicant? You know how many of our people are dying of alcoholism? Why is it about the gin when we pour libation and we're saying Omi Tutu, which is cool water? And Hollywood, yeah, you see, when they pour libation over the grave, they pour in gin. They just got us believing misrepresentations of who we are and what our story truly, truly is. You know? And it just drives me up the freaking wall that every 99 out of 100 stories, representations is basically us wilding, you know, in many senses of the word. And again, I'm trying not to go on the other side of Ogun right now, but somebody needs to say what needs to be said. We can't just keep watching these, possessions and bloodletting, as if our Orisha are so bloodthirsty, you know, that they can't function, without the bloodletting, okay, and much less the throwing away of the carcass. We're not even eating it, as a part of a ritual or ceremony for the most part. Okay. when I was doing all that, because I'm not trying to, sit on some imaginary throne, my behind would be on the ground, okay? That I would have the people at the slaughterhouse give the meat away to the less fortunate, okay? And if I couldn't do that, I'd bury it in my yard, to help the plants grow. It would be fertilizer. You understand? So there has to be something about the recycling part that it seems as though many people are missing out on, and that's you know unfortunate because it's it's still leaning towards that Eurocentric, weaponizing of the African, voodooism, and we all know that that's a misnomer right there. Even using that word, in that regards, is of a European mindset. So we're into Ifa and Isheshe, but we're into it like Europeans. You understand? And I'm not here to fight that. I'm just here to help us, you know, perhaps consider that there is another level, a deeper level, you know, even in the sacred waters. You become more sacred the deeper you go. So let's try to see beyond. You go on Facebook, we watch movies, you hear church folks with calling us heathens. It's like we're constantly bombarded with. There's a few choice words I can use, but I'm not. Forgive me, people. But we're constantly bombarded with the dumb stuff, okay? With the hype, and that becomes the story. We become the story that's told to us. We become the repackaged, damaged goods. And we say, "Oh, well, I'm into Orisha, and Ogun is like this. I'm an Ogun, or I'm an Oya, and I got to be like this. I got to be." No, you got to be like you. The Orishas are helping you to understand your nature so that you can elevate it. So you can elevate it. So that you can become more than your conditioned mindset. And all the ebos in the world, without proper guidance, it's not going to change that. All of the memorization without proper guidance regarding the Odu Ifa is not going to change that. Okay. And
The,
and, and that's why I'm here. This is my message. This is my message as an OG. And I don't see how it doesn't make sense. I'm well studied and well traveled. I'm just not coming up with stuff to sell a product. I'm coming up to save a people. You know. So that's Ogunda.
that reminds me of wait, do you hear echo?
I do,
Um,
but no, it's not bad at all.
okay, okay. So it reminds me of this week whenever I was exploring some of the old dudes, and I thought let me take another turn and look at the Orishas. And so I was looking at the Orisha of Obanani. Yeah, Obanani. And with
Can you?
Obanani, yeah, I can hear you. I muted it to avoid the echo.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, I'll show
Please
you.
continue.
So yes, I was exploring Obanani and basically how Obanani is less spoken of. And in all of the years that I've been studying the Orishas, she's less spoken of and usually referred to as the one who was insecure, who was bitter, old, or like they shrink her to be
Hmm.
so undesirable in today's time. And so I was like, I want to cover her because outside of Yoruba tradition, um, over in Lawa, Lawa's a Vodun, Haitian Vodun practice or whatnot.
Loa.
They, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Lawa, yeah, they treat her so like the way that they revere her is just so beautiful to me.
Yes.
But Hollywood would like us to perceive Haitian voodoo or voodoo
Hmm.
as more scary, dark, demonic like. So
Yes.
those who would look at her over there would see that as more enticing,
Yeah.
more sensual, sexy,
Mhm.
because she's looked at as one that is of power, mystery, and death in the graveyard and that type of thing. But over here in the Yoruba path or
Mhm.
E5 path with the Orishas, she's like, oh, she's just insecure. And she did a ritual that
Mhm.
basically led her to be unfavorable in Shango's marriage amongst the three wives that he had. So when
Mhm.
people think of what is my Orisha, what's my head Orisha, they only want to go to like Oya or Shun or Yemaya because
Mhm.
they want to be perceived as this, oh yeah, dangerous, don't play with her, she will whip you, and she's the favorite wife of Shango, the most attractive man, that
Mhm.
type of thing. Or oh yeah, sensual, the mother of all,
Right.
she's about babies and protector of babies and this and that. Or Oshun, sensual, prostitution,
Mhm.
sexy, most sexiest of the wives. But Obanani is bitter, insecure, basically kicked to the curve.
Yeah.
Oh, so when I was diving into all of her attributes and the beauty of her, I'm
Mhm.
like, I would rather Oba Nani's shrine be in my house
Right.
with all of
Right.
her attributes because it was so relevant to me. Like, I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I don't play about my kids, I
Right.
don't play about my love. If I'm giving my love to somebody in a relationship, like, I want it to be upheld and honored. When it comes to business, like, I'm like, I want to be an enterprise of all the things that's going to resolve the matters that I've gone through and that my people have gone through. And Obanani was a woman that was already put together before she got married to Shango. She was already put up. She already had wealth. She already
Mhm.
had these things, and she just allowed for other wives, for Shango to have additional wives. And she
Yeah.
was a senior wife too of Shango's. So
See.
being the
Right.
senior wife, and so yes, she is of marriage. Yes, she is of protection, and yes, she is of the cemetery,
Mhm.
but in the marketplace of the cemetery, but she is a royalty, by birth, being the daughter of a Batala and,
Right.
and sisters of these other Orishas, Oshun, Oba, of Yewa, of Oya. Like, she's a great feminine force just
Mhm.
alone in her own attributes without marriage,
Yeah.
just being the daughter of royalty alone. She already came with these things. But oftentimes she's only remembered as Shango's wife, the one who cut her ear off
Mhm.
and fed him something because she wanted to gain his favor in
Mhm.
hopes, and she was basically manipulated to do that. And they were even looking at the side of her being manipulated to do it. People just see that downward side. They don't look at the other side of what it takes for somebody to even do something manipulative.
Right.
They're vulnerable.
Mhm.
They're willing to endure something. They're in love. Like, that's like the other side of manipulation that people don't talk about. I understand that it is negative to try to manipulate something, but to do something in order to save your marriage,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? To
Yeah.
to go in that light, like, I'm willing to sacrifice myself, sacrifice parts of me in order to show my devotion to my spouse,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure why things are falling apart.
Okay. Well, let's take all of that. and put it in a honey pot. Okay.
Mhm.
And and this honey pot is called stories that we hear,
Yes.
stories that we come to know, stories that we accept, stories that we reject, stories that are applicable, even if we like them, perhaps they could be not applicable, but we still like them. Okay. So you see, there's all these dynamics that are happening, but it all circles around this one basic fact. You heard it. And if you didn't hear it, you would be, let's just say, limited to what you have heard. And see, and that's why I share with students, initiates, disciples. It doesn't matter who you are, who you think you are. You the importance of deepening and expanding what's known as your prior knowledge base is of the utmost importance. It is of the utmost importance because none of us would be believing too much of anything if we didn't hear it. If somebody didn't tell it to us in an actual conversation and word, or you heard it in a song, or you know what I mean, you read it in a book. And these individuals who would say, and I just came across this today, but it was a reminder. You know, sometimes you come across something and it hits that sore spot, or it just, it's like, yeah, they still doing this. Babalao had a group page, and on the surface, it looked cool. Okay, there was even a person or two whom I know who was already part of the group. So, not being one to just go with anybody to do anything, or just join because it looks good on the surface, I started flipping the pages, you know. And then, when it comes to that page of, do you accept the terms of the group? I was like, no. Okay. I mean, I didn't have to say no. I just left the page. And the reason I left was because this Babalao stated that he wasn't going to accept anybody who was doing anything outside of him. You know, no, don't give readings from anybody. Don't consult with anybody. And all I'm hearing is, don't listen to anybody else's story. Don't share your story to get different interpretations with whomever you as an adult choose to. How's somebody going to come to you and tell you don't share your story or don't listen to anybody else's story? That's not our ancestral way. That's colonization. That's Christianity. That's Islam. That's Judaism. That is not the way of our people. I'm telling you straight up. It's like the more stories you hear, the more choices you have. The more you communicate with people on deeper levels, the deeper you become. You know, you how you gonna be a high priest and you want to incarcerate people? Oh, don't listen to so and so and so and so, and don't do this. You're gonna burn in hell, or they're gonna lead you astray. I'm like, make up your own damn mind. That's why you have a mind. Oh, my Ori is so cool and so cool. But when did somebody tell you don't do something, and you just don't do it because you feel as though their truth is your truth, that's called imprisonment, you know? Why wouldn't you want to hear somebody else's story? I delight in hearing other people's stories. I delight in hearing your stories. You know what I mean? Because you know I'm watching you get deeper and deeper and deeper, which is my purpose for being here. You know? But I wouldn't get that if I didn't want to listen to you. You know, people go get these readings and divinations, they call them diaphiles or whatever, and you just sit and you be told. And folks were like, but don't ask questions. You know what I mean? They tell you, don't ask questions, don't engage in conversation. And I'm like, why not? Why not? Why not? Because see, back in the day, divination before invasion by the Europeans and the Christianization of Africa, the diviners would just chant, chant, chant. And when the person felt as though whatever was being chanted applied to them, that person would say, that's the one. Okay? Because diviners were also the psychiatrists. The diviners were also the emotional, support systems. The diviners were also, the spiritual guides, not just come and you want to quit your job, and so you come for a reading. All right, well here's your due, and here's what you have to do. Put your money in there, and go get a chicken or whatever. All right, see you later. No, 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 no. We are older than that. We are beyond that. Okay, but we need us to get there. Right. So and this is leading to the importance of stories. All right. Okay, we've probably got another 30 minutes or so at the most. So I'm going to try to go over this relatively quickly, but we can pick up on it at any given time. Okay. So when we talk about stories and the importance of stories, we can relate. There's no way that we cannot, especially if we come up in church. We've heard stories, you know. We've heard stories about Noah being swallowed by the whale, and Moses parting the seas, and Samson. We've heard stories um, about Noah and the ark. Yeah, we've heard so many stories. Jesus walking on water. So many stories. We just go to Bible school, okay, and Sunday school. We do little children even before church. They just get just inundated with stories, 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 stories. And we're at ages where we're very impressionable, you know? And we just don't see the stories in church. We see the stories unfold in movies, in comic books, in cartoons. The religion of a given society, you know it oozes out into every facet of society, right up to marriage. Okay. So and academics, because there was a time that the whole Darwin theory of evolution was not accepted based on Christian doctrine. The Christian doctrine was heavily a part of the school systems, and it still is. It still is. It just uh, changed its, you know, It just shifted a little bit. You know what I mean? Shape shift. That's what I'm looking for. Just shape shift a little bit. But it's still there. I have yet to see during Christmas time, a group in a high school get up and do Orisha music. Oh, but believe me, I've seen Christmas carols and Christian songs.
I used to be an African drum and dance when I was in middle school.
Excuse me?
I used to be an African drum and dance when I was in middle school.
Okay, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But did you ever call the name of an Orisha?
No, no.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
But when you hear that choir sing, or when somebody's gotten up and now they talking about Christmas, they got the tree. You're going to hear Jesus. You're going to hear that God. You're going to hear the stories. That
Yeah.
African dance and all that. That's telling. That's a rhythm, but it's
Hmm.
not a story.
Hmm.
You see. So,
Yeah.
and even if one slips in or two, even up to these days and times, it's folk tale. You understand? It's
Right.
folklore. There's nothing deep about it.
Hmm.
But I'm saying all this as I'm just grinding through this wall, this obstacle that we who are avaricious and oloricious and our woes are entrapped by ourselves. You know, we are, and it's time somebody called it out because we've lost the importance of telling our own stories. And we have people in position who don't even want to hear it. They just want to keep on regurgitating
Hmm.
somebody else's breakdown of the story. Like
Hmm.
you were saying about how the people in Haiti see the Orisha differently, okay, than the people in the US. Okay. We keep hearing the same story. We keep seeing the same story. So we keep reenacting, role playing, as you say, cosplaying, and it's just, you know, crucial, critically, not empowering us. Survival, I get it, but empowerment, that's something different. So here we go. Stories do change over time. This is people. Okay, that's called retroactive continuity. Every story changes. Biblical, Quranic, Buddhism, every story changes. But it's the core, it's the lesson behind it, okay, that we've lost sight of. It's like a story without a theme, a story without a moral. It's like, oh, that's just a wives' tale. That doesn't really mean anything. It's just for entertainment. Well, let's make a coloring book out of it, okay? But with no significance attached to it, okay? Now, a person may wonder, say, well, Oluo, Oba, why do you think like this? Where are you coming from? Well, it dawned on me when I was at Badagry in Nigeria. And Badagry is a slave fortress, just like Elmina is a slave fortress. Please don't ever call it a castle, okay? It's a slave fortress, all right? And while they were tearing our people apart, they were, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the British, yeah, they're all singing to Jesus. They're all Christianizing, okay, the people by giving them Christian names, stripping away their names. And when you strip away a name, you just don't strip away the sound of the name. You strip away the rhythm of the name. Ifakolade sounds a lot different than Susan rhythmically, you see? And the rhythm of the name is the rhythm of the land. and the rhythm of the movement of a people, even in the dance, even in the drumming. The drum speaks the language of the people. You know, folks can drum, and everybody know what they're saying. Everybody knows what a reach is too. You understand? So even the name tells a story rhythmically as well. Okay. So here I'm in Badagry, and I'm walking through this, trying not to get possessed by the spirit of everything. And I wound up being moved to out of this place where they had the shackles, and I'm hearing the cries, and I'm just there. I'm just there, like I was there. And I found myself at the shoreline, and I was being pulled into the water. Okay. And I started to wade in the water, and the next thing you know, my face is in the water. I'm going down. You know, I'm bathing in the water. I'm being baptized. Okay. And the voice came to me from the deepness of the ocean, and the movement of the winds, and it was like, go forth, go forth, continue us. Don't let enslavement be the end of the lineage that goes back 300,000 years, that goes back to the earliest of our people. These are all your ancestors. Your ancestors don't stop at enslavement, nor do they start at enslavement. Go forth and let the people know. Help them to understand that we are more than what's in this book written by oppressors and enslavers. No matter what we may have been able to get out of it, and the blood that we shed, you're talking about a blood sacrifice. Okay. But understand this. And so now, part of the pragmatic approach is uh, getting a grip on the fact that you may not know your great, 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 great grandfather, but you know daggone well you had one. You know you had one, or you wouldn't be here. And he had a great, 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 great grandfather. And she had a great, 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 great grandfather, great, 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 great grandmother. All the way back, we have millions of ancestors. That's scientifically, mathematically a fact. So why do we stop and kind of appease ourselves with the stories we're told from slavery to now, as if we truly didn't exist? I don't understand how being a part of Ifani Sheshe blinds us to the most potent, the most powerful statement of our existence. That's why I say Ifa is not my religion, it's my existence. And my existence embraces the totality of my ancestors and your ancestors, because we were together as a tribal nation, as an empire. How can we not see that? How can we not feel that? We need to tell our stories, and we need to hear the stories of those who came before us, and we need to talk about it amongst ourselves, you know? Beyond the white gaze, as Toni Morrison calls it. Here they come, repackaging and diluting and making it, palatable to them. And it'll squeeze all the juice out of us. I'm like, not today. So uh, again, there's the pata keys that we were going to speak about uh, as you know, drawn from the Odui Fa, okay, but not specifically the Odui Fa, but drawn from it, drawn from the well of the Odui Fa. It has come up quite a bit over the past week, about uh, people's interpretations of the patakis. Okay, uh, first of all, and foremost of all, is that we kind of accept patakis as basically a Latino thing, from the syncretisms, and more so, yes, okay, because it was the Spanish who were and the Portuguese who were um, translating a lot of this back in the 1500s, let's just say, and they were basically translated by men, and we would say white men, who were um, clergy. So they put in and took out and rewrote, you know, to basically satisfy them. They definitely wasn't trying to satisfy us because we were enslaved and we weren't permitted learning how to read and write, if you recall. So they weren't doing it for us. They were doing it for them. And so now we have this kind of uh, watered down version, and somewhat twisted version of the Odu Ifa. However, that doesn't mean that we can't learn from it. Okay. And I'm going to be brief, and we can get back into this, on another at another time. But let's just look at this thing about tasting honey before making the offering to Oshun. Okay, because Oshun was like, "You're not going to poison me, are you?" You know what I mean? I've been down this road, and so I got to triple check. All right. And I'm saying that if that works for you, then do it. Okay. But I have a trusting relationship with Oshun, and she knows daggone well that if anybody's going to try to poison her, it's not going to be Oloye Ifa Karade. Because see, you can relate to people in different ways, and you can relate to Orisha in different ways. Okay. So if that's the kind of level that you have where Oshun doesn't trust you, because she thinks you might poison her, then that's your relationship with her. That's not mine, And just because it's in a pataki, it's a story. And that doesn't mean that I have to accept it, nor do I have to believe it. It's just like somebody telling you something about somebody that is different than what you're hearing. And you're like, nah, nah. You saying that about a lawyer, Ifakarade? I've been around this brother for a long time. I don't know how you seeing it, but he's not like that. The same thing happens with our relationship with the Orisha. And like I try to share with people, the Orisha have different levels and layers of understanding and acceptability, just like we do. And the Orisha have spirits, just like we do. There is a spirit of Oshun. There is a spirit of Shango. There's a spirit. If they're there in existence, they have a spirit. Okay? So here we have the thing with Oshun and the honey. Again, based on the pataki, somebody tried to poison her. Now she's checking in. All right. So if that's your relationship, fine. All I'm here to share with you is that it's not a solid truth. It's a story that if you wish to accept and abide by, that becomes part of your story, a part of who you are. That doesn't mean that it has to be a part of everybody's story. And even worse, when you're going to force people to believe your story, despite them telling you that they don't. And then you're going to tell them that Oshun is not going to bless you. She's not going to accept your offering because you're not following my story. I'm like, please, okay? This is not how ancestral beings grow and develop and work. You still think in syncretism and in slavery, enslavement. Okay? So it can go even further and talk about pollution and poisoning because when the Europeans came in, they started to pollute the Oshun River. Okay, as they've done with almost every river. They were doing it in Europe. That's why part of the reason they had to get out of there. They jacked it up so badly. Okay, so the people now say that that story connects to the Oshun River and how it's being polluted. There are other people who interpret the story as if to say, be careful of people who seemingly are bringing you gifts that you may not need to trust everybody. You see, there's so many different interpretations of that one pataki, if accepted. It just can't be was in the pataki somebody tried to poison Oshun and that's why I taste the honey before putting it down. It's like, you know, come on, see the moral of the story, see the theme, work it out pragmatically. What is Oshun trying to tell you in that act when you go out into the world and just take anything and that somebody gives you without checking it, without checking it. You see, this is the pragmatic approach, taking the stories and seeing what the moral is, what the theme is, what's really going on. Okay. Uh, the other one that I wanted to talk about, because this was brought up just last night, speaking with one of the Aberishas, who was trying to figure out this pataki about Ogun raping Yemoja, and then in his shame, uh, self-exiling himself into the woods. And she was like, Baba Oloye, I mean, what does that mean? I see the word rape here. Now, Ogun's raping his mother. Da, 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 da. I said, well, again, it's been translated by Europeans, okay, who were Christians. And it may not have been that because I've yet to see it in the Odu Ifa. I've yet to see it. That doesn't mean I've seen everything, but I've yet to see that. Okay. So let's look at it from a pragmatic point of view. Okay. When the technology becomes so out of control, when the side effects of technology become so detrimental that even the oceans are ravished, even the oceans are suffocating. Look at what's happening to the fish. You can't even eat fish like you did when I was coming up because of the mercury poison. Okay? Look at what's happening. Is this not Yemoja, mother of the fishes? Is that not what it means? You understand where we're going here? So this is technology tearing into the basic foundation of life on this planet. It all started in the sea, according to most modern, findings. Okay, and to be ravished, to take something without being invited to take it, that is rape. Okay, somebody forcing you to do something. Our connotation is sexual, but it, it could happen on any level. Why are you raping my mind? I'm not inviting you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You're unwilling my willpower. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that is labor.
mhm.
Labor is exploited.
Yeah, exploited. Yes, exploitation. Okay. So you understand what I'm saying, good people? It's not surface level. Our people weren't so shallow. Okay. That's a Eurocentric construct. That's propaganda. Oh, they didn't know nothing. They didn't even have a god. You know what I mean? This is mythology. You know, but you got a snake talking to a woman in a garden. You understand? So it's like, hmm, it goes back to technology getting so out of hand that it destroys the fishes, which means that it's destroying the ocean. And now, once Ogun realizes it, once it gets to a certain point, and the only way he can stop it is to stop himself. So he leaves society and he goes out in the woods into solitude. He puts a halt to it. And during that time, there's no technological development, none. No Ogun, all the gears stop. Okay. But at least that's his way of uh, kind of pulling things back together, because now he's sorry for what he's done. Enter Oshun, who's like not the sex goddess, but she's humanity. Oshun is the Orisha of humanity, the humanities. Oshun is the only Orisha who can plead to Olodumare at his feet, at its feet, at her feet, however it comes to you, and she pleads for humanity, for the sake of human beings, and Olodumare hears her and always kind of gives humanity another chance, because Olodumare knows that it's not just human beings. You got the Orisha, you got the Irumole, you got the Ajogun, you got these negative forces. It's not just human beings, it's a whole slew of entities and energies. So he gives Oshun more power. And it's like, she's like, we have to bring Ogun back. Human beings have to keep progressing. Civilization has to grow. We can't stagnate, or we're going to go in reverse. So Oshun brings Ogun out of his solitude, out of his self exile. You know, he's done his penance, and now technology starts again. It's not like she seduced him. You know what I mean? Again, another sexual connotation. You got to remember, these are white males, and their whole thing about black women. Come on now. So Oshun saves humanity, but she also saves Ogun. Wow. You see? We could go on. You know, there's a number of patak keys, but the the thrust of this service today is to invite you to memory, invite you to seeing through ancestral eyes, not through eyes of those who have been enslaved. Okay? Don't stop there. Uh, Yanifa, you want to add?
I think that you did a well job, especially bringing things down to the perspective of the economy and technology and how it really relates in that aspect. Because that also reminds me of one of the odus that I've heard in the past about Olokun being chained down to the bottom of the ocean,
Mhm.
and the anger with that, and how it relates to maritime goods, trading of the economy, like shipping things back and forth from one country to the next, and how, you know, when it comes to exploitation, that I've heard stories about, there's been children being
Yeah.
trafficked through that. And of course, they will want protection. They would want us to not know about those things,
Right.
you know. And so, yeah, keep Olokun chained down, because if Olokun did have the power, or we did have the knowledge or the technology that we needed to resolve that, we would all know that that has been going on for a long time. That there has been people being trafficked back and forth, or goods, and the wrong goods, or drugs and guns and all of that type of stuff being trafficked over. But that's exploiting nature as well,
Yes.
you know. And but we can't even exploiting nature. Another aspect of that is how I'm in real estate, and I've heard about people living in the water, living on the water, you
Hmm.
know. And then they're now to the point where they're exploiting real estate for those who live on boats there, you know, how the laws and stuff are created just for them to be able to live on their boat
Yeah.
and do well. All of these different policies and things that gotta be in place, and all these ways that they have to comply just to even
Hmm.
live on the ocean.
Yes.
That's crazy. To
It
me,
is.
that's
It is.
crazy.
Yeah.
But all we can think of is just about Olakun being on my head, and that means wealth. That means I have all
Yeah.
this power, and X, Y, and Z. Instead of our actual relationship to what that means, the responsibility that come with it. When you mentioned earlier about Eshu and giving toys to him and candy to him, I'm thinking about how there's midterms coming up, and there has to be votes made, and how people should go and vote if they want a better,
Hmm.
you know, a better system. You know, we should know about these type of things versus thinking about, oh, we need SU. Do you have SU at the front door of the house? And this is, you know what I'm saying? Like, did you get SU whenever you left from getting initiated?
Hmm. Well, you know,
Oh, you
I
didn't
used
get that?
to, oh, well, talking to you was asking you.
Yeah.
Uh, are you asking me?
No, yeah,
Is
no,
it?
I'm saying in general. That's what people
Oh,
ask.
yeah,
Did they
yeah,
give you a shoe? You know,
yeah.
and it's like, yeah, rightfully so. You want to make sure you get what you're going for when you're going through initiations.
But why?
Now, yeah, why? And however, in the
Hmm.
real world,
Yeah,
and things
yeah,
outside of that big initiation,
yeah.
there are things that's really happening out here
Hmm.
that you might need as shoe to apply in a different way.
Exactly. That's what come from. If we don't make it pragmatic, then we are more Eurocentric than we like. Our European mindset and that deeply ingrained Christian doctrine that the Lord is going to take care of it. You know, we shall go and take care of it, and all you got to do is,
Right.
keep praying and making elbows and giving us your money, and everything gonna be all right. And it's like, no, you gotta get up off your ass. You gotta put your hands in the soil, and you got to bring a ever increasing level of applicability to this. That's
Mhm.
what our ancestors did. We weren't thinking about Jesus when we built Oyo Empire. We weren't thinking about some sky god in heaven. When we were building the Benin Wall, the largest and the strongest wall in humankind before the British tore it down and raped the city.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we see movies about that? We see Troy, we see the Greeks and the Trojan horse and all of that. Why don't we see what happened to our people,
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we don't see it is because we're not doing it. Back
Yeah.
to your, I'm coming full circle now because I know it's time to go, but back to your earlier statement about, you know, if things aren't being communicated correctly, if the people who are supposed to be, in position to get things done aren't doing it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something that I feel as though is important. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I wrote the handbook, you know, no easy task. But now I'm like, so we're taking everything to another level. So hey, everybody out there, while I'm rocking with Ogun right here, right now today, if you're an animator, you know, I'm looking for you. You know, if you can do something with the stories that we tell and take it on a whole nother level, then we're looking for you. Okay, we're dancing around it, but if you're a professional in it, then we need to learn from you. We need to share stories. You know, and in the spirit of Ashiwada, in closing, you know, move ourselves upward and onward as we become more ancestrally insightful, beyond the shackles and the thick, ever closing in wall of European mindsets and Abrahamic religions. Ashe.
Ashe. That's the message that I have. It is been an hour and 32 minutes, and I'm happy that Olaya is here to drop some amazing mic drops and gems as it is so greatly stated as in our caption here. So um, I think he said enough. I think he said well more than enough. There hasn't been any comments. We did get Nyasia who joined us, so I thank her
Yeah.
for being here.
Peace, Asia. How are you? Okay.
But
Aberration.
the great thing about these lives here is that they've been recorded and they're streamed in there on YouTube. So you can find us on YouTube. If you want to be a part of the community, we do have, well, I have a WhatsApp group. And WhatsApp group where a lot of these conversations are being upheld, along with a lot of events and opportunities to be a part of the community. So you're more than welcome to find the links in the description on the page, on the YouTube channel, on Facebook or whatnot, to be a part of the community. And there's plenty of books. Books are always in the description of these videos so that you can find more resources, more knowledge, more wisdom, and insights that Aloye has definitely published over the years, over the last 30 something years. Yeah, so that's
More than
available. And
50.
he is here, and he is here and available through any writing submissions that you may have. If you want a story that you can share, the email is provided in the description as well. And we're looking to hear stories and share stories, experiences, so that they can be heard here on our platform. You know,
Yeah. You know?
yeah, yeah. I think I've said as much as I could, as much as I can
All
remember.
right. We can say Odabo.
No doubt. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Enjoy your evening and thank you.
Peace and love, everyone.